Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome, Fernando. Great to see you here as well. We've got Valerie and Nash and Trista and Karen. Fantastic. Got a whole bunch of folks with us. I love it. I love it. I like kind of wrapping up the week like this. I know it's Friday morning for those of you who are alive. And so the week isn't quite wrapped up yet, but you know what? It's pretty darn close. So I'm looking forward to today. Let me kind of set the stage for you guys just a little bit. You'll remember from a previous live stream, we asked the question, how much will you make? How much will you earn in your career? And we explored that at some depth, and we'll kind of touch upon it today. And we kind of realized, you know what, if you apply a skill, especially a unique skill, and it provides an immediate value, and that value includes an element of risk, and if it creates a lot of value for the rest of the economy, if you check all those boxes, tick all those boxes, you're going to be in great shape. You're going to make some serious cash flow. But we also noticed something else. We noticed that your status in society is often correlated with how much you earn. Obviously, this is not a universal truth by any measure. But by and large, the more you earn, the more society kind of says, "Ooh, you're really something else." You're successful. You're of sufficient high status, and so forth. So, for example, as we talked about, I used to deliver for FedEx. I was a truck driver for FedEx, and now I'm a college professor. Same darn person. This guy, I'm the same person. But when I was a truck driver for FedEx, my social status was here. Now that I'm a professor at a community college, my status is here. And if I were a professor at a university, my status would be here. But it's the same person, same work, especially from college to university. Okay, so that kind of sets the stage for today, because here's the thing. Income isn't the only thing that decides, or I shouldn't say decides. That's not right. Income is not the only thing that has the potential of influencing how we perceive somebody's value. So let me state that in another way. When we look at somebody, we judge a book by its cover. We make some level of valuation, some judgment of their value and worth as a person. And this could be economic, financial. It could be the type of, work they do. Well, I want to really poke at this hard today. Because when we evaluate what is good work, what is a good job, what is an ethical, noble, honorable way to earn a living? Are we talking about economic value, which is what we talked about in our previous live stream, or are we making a moral judgment? All right? So, to show you what I mean, this is what I'm going to ask today, and I'm going to push the right button instead of the wrong button, so I don't disappear like that. So here's a rhetorical question. You are absolutely welcome to respond to this rhetorical question, or you can just kind of, meditate upon it, let it ruminate in your mind a little bit as we explore the answer to this. And I shouldn't say answer, because we're not going to answer it. We'll explore the response. Should an able-bodied person be expected to work for their living? Now, if I look at past generations, say like my grandfather and my father, and maybe even my generation, I'm Gen X, this question, it's self-evidently true. Yes, everybody should be required to work for their living. However, that is a value judgment. If anything, it might be a moral judgment. It is immoral. It is unethical. One might argue to live off of the work of others. Now, I am not making that valuation. I'm just simply saying that some of us may construe living without working as being less than savory. Okay? Well, okay, let's play with this for a moment. By the way, our square table degenerates. Oh my gosh, that's a winning name. That's a winning name. People just wait for the jobs they want. If they are young enough, they can be supported by parents until they get into their 40s. You know what? I see this. Now, there's a certain logic to it. Let's say for a moment that somebody is living in their parents' basement into their 40s. But during that time, they're saving, they're working, they're getting an education, they're building a career and so on and so forth, so that when they move out, they can actually, do so in an economically viable way. I might say that's different, though, than somebody who's just living off the dole, as we might say. Okay, so yeah, square table degenerates. Why is it that everybody thinks of these cool-ass names except me, right? So Karen says, how are you defining work? A mom works when she stays at home and takes care of the children, even if she may not bring in an income. Holy hell yes. Yeah, that's work. And that's, oh my gosh, Karen, so you bring up something really fascinating. It's interesting how many of us don't consider something to be work unless it brings in an income. So for example, let's say that you're working on your resume and you're like, oh, I haven't worked in 20 years because I've been raising kids and so on. Volunteer work should go on a resume. Church work, synagogue, mosque, whatever you do for a religion should go on a resume. Your work you do as a parent should go on a resume. They don't care how much you earn. They care about what skills did you develop and apply to solve the problem. We're going to explore that another time. That is a really good point, Karen. Okay, the one I want to explore today is we're going to play with this. And Karen, we will explore the question you ask of what do you consider work? We're totally going to consider that question in depth today. So, is panhandling a job? All right, so to frame this question and to explore it, let's take some time to explore what does work, as Karen points out, how do we define work? And what is a job, okay? We earn money, most of us, and for the most part, by working in a job. Now, Square Table Degenerates points out, not all of us are working in a job and so forth. We might be in school, we might be living with parents, we might be doing who knows what, right? But for the most part, in general, let's just accept for the point of discussion that we work in a job. Okay? So, what's work? And Karen brings this up right away. Well, work is the application of effort, energy, or skills to achieve or produce an outcome. Achieve a goal or produce an outcome. Purposeful work, purposeful action aimed at creating some type of value. So, for example, I'm a college professor, right? Okay. Well, heck, let's even do a YouTuber right now. Right now, I'm not functioning as a college professor. I'm not being paid for this. Right now, I am inhabiting the role of a YouTuber. That's the work I'm doing. Okay. I am applying effort, energy, and skills. I am trying to achieve a goal or produce an outcome, which is to produce this live stream and to engage with my audience. It is purposeful action. This is all meticulously all figured out. Aim at creating some type of value. I am attempting to create value through this live stream. Therefore, this is work. Now, Karen, as a mother, right? Absolutely. Is it the application of effort, energy, and skill? Hell to the yeah. There's a lot of effort and energy and skill applied in being a parent. Is it to achieve a goal or produce an outcome? Yeah, a healthy, happy, thriving, educated kid with a future. That's a pretty darned important outcome. I think we can agree. Purposeful action, you are setting up a schedule, you're making sure that everything is in place, you're making sure things are safe, you're making sure the kid is provided for, all this sort of stuff aimed at creating some type of value. The value that you are seeking to create is a happy, thriving, healthy child with a future who can be happy and live a great life and contribute to society. That's pretty darn direct. That is work. Okay. So then, is panhandling work? Well, let's first look at the application of effort and energy. Panhandlers often spend long periods of time standing or sitting in the weather and the elements, interacting with people and holding up signs. Now, you might say that's not work, but let me tell you, folks. Back when I was working on my college degree, my bachelor's, for a short while, maybe a year, I worked as a security guard. And I would stand in one place for 8 hours. And I have never been in so much pain in my life. Standing in one place for 8 hours is a Herculean task. I've done many Ironman events, and those don't come anywhere near as painful as standing in one place. Yeah, in some places they are considered work, right? Okay, we're going to come back to that. You're really hitting it on the head, okay? Interacting with people. Okay, you tell me whether or not you think customer service is work. Hell yeah, customer service is work. Customer service is hard work. This is what panhandlers do. They're standing in the elements. It's physically hard work, and they're providing customer service. Okay, let's keep going. Purposeful action. Remember, work is directed by purposeful action. We posit in our definition. Well, panhandling is a deliberate, intentional activity. The panhandler chooses where and when to stand, how to present themselves, how to communicate their need, all with the intent, the purpose of maximizing donations. There's a real skill involved in this. Some are much better than others. And I remember, I know this sounds irrelevant, but it's tangential, right? I remember, watching this little show about poker players, and one guy said, well, people say poker is all luck, but if it's all luck, why do you see the same people at the champions table every year? There is a real skill to this. Now, once again, we don't have to agree with the work or anything like that, but we have to recognize that there is purposeful action and skill involved. Valerie says, are panhandlers providing some sort of value, though? Let's look at that. We are going to look at that. Creating value, Valerie. You're so tuned in, you're anticipating where we're going. Obviously, for the panhandler, the value is the money. We get that. For the donor, there is value. It might be the feeling of doing good or producing goodwill or moral satisfaction in helping somebody in need. Here's my assertion, Valerie. It is not a question of whether or not the panhandler produces value or offers value, because it's a free market system. You are not required to give the panhandler money. you are doing it voluntarily. And if you're doing it voluntarily, that's because there must be something you're getting out of the exchange. Now, some people get different things out of the exchange, so it's not the same for everyone. But we can say that they are getting something out of the exchange, otherwise they would not engage in that service. Christina says, panhandling is absolutely work. When I'm fundraising for my nonprofit, we're going to talk about that. You guys are sharp today. You're sharp because we are going to talk about that. We are going to fundraising, okay? We're going to do that, all right? So, yeah, Karen, right? Folks are on it today. So then, okay, we've established its work, or at least I propose that we have established by the definition that we offered that panhandling is work. But now, is it a job? All right, let's look at this. Here's a definition of a job that I would like to propose. A structured form of work, often involving roles, responsibilities, performance expectations, objectives, and rewards. Okay? Now, remember, you don't have to work for someone, for a company, to have a job. You can be an independent contractor. You can be a solopreneur. You can have your own business. You can do gig work. There's a job element. Let's play with this when it comes to panhandling, okay? So, well, is panhandling a job? Well, remember, an employee or an independent contractor. Right now, I am functioning as a YouTuber. Therefore, I don't work for anyone, but I have a business, and this is the work I do as a YouTuber. And so there are certain expectations required of me, and we'll talk about that. But an employee or an independent contractor has roles, responsibilities, and performance expectations related to their position with a company or a client. You have expectations of me, and it is my job in the role of a YouTuber to provide for those expectations. Okay? All right, so panhandling. Well, now, check this out. This is what I assert. A panhandler absolutely has a role in relation to the homelessness industry. There is a huge, vast, multifaceted international industry around poverty and homelessness. It's been around forever. Taxes, death, and the poor will always be with us. The homeless and the poor play a central role in many religious traditions and sacred texts and so forth. So there is a role. I'm not saying you have to agree with that, but I think the case can be made that there is a role that a panhandler plays in this vast industry. Furthermore, there are responsibilities that the panhandler has to follow. There are responsibilities to the homeless shelters and to the food banks and so forth. There are responsibilities to following city ordinances. I'm not saying that everyone does, but then again, I don't always follow the rules and policies of my employer. So there are responsibilities around that where you can and cannot camp and panhandle and so on and so forth. And there's also performance expectations, right? Both for yourself as an independent contractor as they can consider themselves, as well as how they are expected to interact with the community. And the client, well, that's the donor. Right now, you, dear viewer, are the client, and I am the provider of the service. And for some reason or another, you've decided that this is worth your time. Okay? All right. So I want to be clear, though. None of this says you have to like the industry or agree with the industry. But now there are many industries and many jobs that are legitimate, but I don't necessarily like or agree with. And this is my key point. We often attribute a moral value to work, not just an economic or social value. All right? So remember, as we said earlier, how much you earn, it's a unique skill set that provides immediate value, involves an element of risk, and provides value to a large market. Homelessness, the panhandler doesn't really hit many of the marks here except for a skill set, which is why their income is probably relatively low. But it's still work, and in the context of the homeless industry, is still a job. All right? But now, remember, who was it? Somebody who said when you do fundraising and so forth. Here we go. Christina, right? Okay. Let's look at some things that I call panhandling adjacent, which means this is not panhandling, but it employs many of the same aspects of panhandling. And this is what Christina was getting at. First, you've seen cars that have written, with soap pens on the side of the car, just married or just graduated. And they invite you to participate in their graduation with a Venmo donation. Folks, that's panhandling. All right? Yeah, panhandling adjacent. This is pretty darn close to panhandling. All right? The only difference is, whereas the panhandler is holding up a cardboard sign, the other person is driving around in a car with the sign written on it. Whereas and you're like, well, the panhandler, they say work is hard to find. So I don't know if they're being honest. You don't know if the car is being honest. You have no idea. Just graduated. Yeah, in 1937, settled down. How long have you been running this? You don't know. You could also go off and say, well, the panhandler is just going to go off and buy drugs and alcohol. Well, the newlyweds are going to go to Vegas and buy drugs and alcohol. So when they say, yay, we just got married, who knows what they're going to do with that? And is it even our business? Right? So a few comments here. Nash, would GoFundMe be considered panhandling? Regarding GoFundMe, I believe this is panhandling adjacent. The only difference to GoFundMe versus panhandling is the medium by which we are asking for money. The panhandler is holding up the sign, the newlyweds are holding up their car, and the GoFundMe is holding up their website. And so, yeah, it is somebody seeking the donations of strangers, ostensibly for a specific reason, but we don't know whether or not that reason's legit. However, like with GoFundMe, the technology gives the request for a donation this veneer of legitimacy. A cardboard sign, that's not a legitimate thing. But a website, it has to be legitimate because it's a website. Karen says, it depends. I witness a panhandler get into a car better than I drive, right? And they don't necessarily pay taxes. So a couple things, by the way, poor people don't pay taxes, even if they're working. They get their taxes back at the end of the year when they file their taxes, right? Get into a better car than you drive? Absolutely. There could be people, oh my gosh, did we just discover that there might be some dishonest people out there? Sure. And some of them are panhandlers, and some of them wear $3,000 suits and live in penthouse apartments. But we engage with them as business, right? If the reason is proven to be true, it is still... So here's the thing about panhandling or any other provider of a service. When you pay for a service, it's all whether, what you get. Check this out. Whether it's true or dishonest, they're still providing a service. Now, you would like to think it's true. I would like to think it's true. Therefore, I choose to believe it's true. Since I didn't see them get in the car that's better than mine like Karen, I don't want to see that, right? I choose to believe it's true. But regardless, it is still somebody asking for a donation, and what they're offering you is a sense of feeling good, perhaps, right? We'll come back to that. Karen, that is why the news stations put out a disclaimer. If post GoFundMe, they can't guarantee where the money is going. That is correct, Karen. Bang on right. Penna says, agrees, some of them are dishonest, but, that will affect those who need it. That's the hard thing, folks, right? How do you discern who's in need and who isn't? This happens all the time in every industry. No matter what industry you work in, somebody will come to you and say, I have an extenuating circumstance, and you have to decide whether or not it's truly extenuating or if it's needed. Okay, let's continue to look at panhandling adjacent. Companies with non-tipped employees asking for a tip. Now, I want to be clear. I am talking about companies, not individuals. The Starbucks barista does not have a choice whether or not you have to make a selection on the payment pad of whether or not to leave a tip. The barista is not asking you for a tip. Starbucks is asking you for a tip. So that's an important distinction. The second important distinction is the barista is a non-tipped employee, meaning they have to be paid at least the minimum wage or the market rate. So that barista is being paid $14, $15, $16 an hour, okay? Whereas a server at a sit-down restaurant is only being paid $2.13 an hour. When it comes to a server at a restaurant who is working at $2.13 an hour, this is a tipped employee. They are set up that way in the HR and payment and legal system. I believe in tipping heavily. Okay, so we're not talking about these people. What we're talking about is companies like Starbucks, Einstein Bagel, or even online companies. We get companies that ask for an online tip when you order a product online. I consider this panhandling adjacent because I don't know what's happening with that money through the company. And they're already paying the employee for the service, and I have already paid for the service. I have paid for the product. Why are you, dear company, asking me for more money? I want to be clear, it's not the employee, it's the company. Let's see. Valerie says, even if they get paid more, I still like to tip Starbucks baristas. I feel anyone who provides you a quick service should be tipped. Okay, now, thank you, Valerie. Anyone who provides you a quick service should be tipped. Remember, TIP stands for to ensure promptness, TIP, to ensure promptness. I tip when I go to, say, Dutch Bros, because they are meeting me out in the street, especially in the rain or the hot sun, stuff like that. To me, they are going above and beyond and meeting me out at the street or at the parking lot so that when I drive up, it's waiting for me. That's prompt service. I choose to leave a tip there. So, Valerie, we're on the same page there. Karen says, when I worked in a grocery store, we could tell who really needed food stamps and who were possibly scamming the system by what they purchased and whether they use coupons or not. Right? Yeah, I feel you. Totally. Hugh says, hey, I'm sorry I'm late. That's all right, man. Hey, Hugh, this is all optional, baby. Ethan, should online companies be allowed to ask for tips? Exactly. I don't know who I'm tipping and what I'm tipping for. And as Valerie points out, if somebody goes above and beyond and is like Johnny on the spot and provides a pleasant experience and gives me a smile and then gives my puppy a little extra something in the pup cup, oh, a tip is coming. But when it comes to an online, who am I tipping and for what? This is a form of corporate panhandling. I submit to you. And when I say I submit to you or a positive and so forth, it doesn't mean I'm right. It's an idea to play with. Here's my last panhandling adjacent. A YouTube channel. Okay, so let's talk about that. I make YouTube channel videos. I make YouTube videos and so forth. And I get AdSense money occasionally. YouTube, for the record, is actually pretty darn generous with its AdSense revenue, the ad revenue it gets. Nevertheless, it's still limited revenue. You know, it's a big marketplace out there, and not everybody spends all their ad budget at YouTube, right? So I get some AdSense revenue. But then I'll do things like, no, I'm not actually doing this. I'm giving this as an example. Hey, did you notice down there at the bottom, there's that little $sign that says, show your support for Nutshell Brainery. That's tip adjacent, right? It's like, okay, do you appreciate the service that I'm giving you? Yeah, okay, then give me a tip. Well, hold on, Lon, you're already getting ad revenue from this. And furthermore, you know, you're kind of leveraging your job as a college professor to put this together. So the majority of you that are with me right now are my college students. I don't know that that's really tip worthy. And yeah, YouTube, we're always looking to increase tips. We're looking to increase memberships and so on and so forth. Tip adjacent. All right. So, at the end of the day, we're also asking, is this ethical work? Being a panhandler. Well, let's explore this for just one moment. A day trader is a type of trader who executes a high volume of trades within a single day to capitalize on intraday, within the day price fluctuations in the market. The goal is to profit from tiny, very short-term price movements. So a day trader buys a stock, waits for it to go up a half a cent, and then sells the stock. I made a half a cent. Now, if you buy enough shares, say like, 1,000 shares, that half a cent makes, 3 cents, right? Or whatever, right? It makes some money. I'm not sure I can figure out what value that day trader is providing society. I submit to you that it could be argued that a panhandler provides more value to society than a day trader. I'm not sure what economic value they provide. I'm not sure what social value they provide. And all they're doing is making money off of somebody else's product, and not even benefiting the company such that they can invest that money that they invested for any long-term growth strategy or anything. That's the whole idea of investing. You give me your money, let me keep it for 5 years, and I'm going to invest it in this growth strategy, and I'm going to make you money, dear investor. That's the whole 401k, 403b, IRA, all that sort of stuff. These guys are like, you can have my money for 13 minutes. What value is that? And yet these people, Karen, you think a panhandler's driving around in a souped-up car. These people are driving around in Lamborghinis and Ferraris and Bentleys and living in New York. I exaggerate, but I exaggerate to make a point. I don't know what value they provide, right? So, interesting thought. So in closing, here's our in closing. And 35 minutes, hit the mark. We often confuse social value of a role with its economic value, but we often confuse the social value of a role with what we perceive to be its moral value. I, once again, believe that the case could be made that a panhandler provides more social value than a greedy day trader. I'm not saying all day traders are greedy. I'm just saying a greedy day trader. And yet, socially, we esteem the day trader higher than the panhandler. Just a thought there, okay? What if they're working as a day trader for someone else as well? So they're using somebody, says Karen, they're using somebody else's money to create value for that person and so forth, right? Which is absolutely the case in many, many, many cases. What economic value is being created? How do you and I benefit from this? I don't know. Just food for thought. Food for thought. All right, folks. Once again, thank you, all of you, and then thank my supporters over at Patreon and YouTube members and so forth. I really appreciate this. I love doing this. And it's always nice to see the numbers and the viewers and so forth and the likes. So thank you very much. These are little things to you, but they're big things to me. So thank you. As always, if you're a member of my class, send me an email. Let me know you were here, and we put a little something extra in your cup. You dirty, stinking panhandlers. Nah. We get some points in your bucket. There you go. Hey, everyone. Thank you, Valerie. I appreciate that. I like exploring these ideas. Don't think for a moment that any of this is true or correct. We're just exploring the ideas. You get to decide what's true and correct. That's what the awesome thing is about education. We learn how to think and process ideas, and then we choose what's right for us. Go team. All right. Hey, we'll see you guys later. Have a great one. Thanks, Karen, Trista, Fernando, Penna, Leslie. You're all awesome. As always, I'll hang out for a moment or two to see if there are any questions or anything, but yeah, we're good. Thank you, Daniela. All right, I see people drive. So you're panhandlers for extra credit. Who knows, right, Karen? I'm a panhandler for asking for the likes. We're asking for a donation of something. It's all right. It's good. We support each other that way. All right, everyone. I see folks dropping off, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Have a fantastic Friday and an even better weekend, and we'll see you next week. Have a good one.